Unit 3, Lesson 3, Combining Integers, Part 2. In our last lesson, we looked at combining integers on the number line. Let's review. When we look at number 1, we would separate -3 plus 4 into two different moves. So we would have a -3 followed by a +4. So this on the number line would mean we're starting at 0, we're going in the negative direction 3, followed by a move in the positive direction 4, and we end up at 1. Number 2, we start, our first move is to a +5, followed by a move in the negative direction 2. And so I'll do that down here. We go in the positive direction 5, and then we turn around and go back in the negative direction 2. 1, 2, and we end up at +3. So that is what we did in lesson 2. Let's move on to this new lesson. Here we have 7 minus 3. Now, from elementary school, we know that 7 minus 3 equals 4. But let's look what would happen if we rewrite this with the followed by sign, or the plus sign in the middle. So we would have a +7 followed by, this would be a -3. So a move in the negative direction 3. So if it's a simple problem like this that you know from elementary school, if you have 7 and you subtract 3, you get 4, you can leave that alone and do it in your head. But let's say it was reversed and it was 3 minus 7. If you have 3, you cannot take 7 away. So that problem would be a little bit different. So we would want to rewrite it as an addition problem so we can have this followed by sign in the middle. So whatever in the second number, whatever sign is in front of the number goes with it. So here we have a +7 followed by a -3. If we graph this on the number line, we would go in the positive direction 7, followed by a move in the negative direction 3. 1, 2, 3, and we end up right at 4. Let's try the next one. So here, our first move is in the positive direction 4. Now, we don't have a followed by sign here, so let's put that in, followed by. Now we have this. Now, if we think back to lesson 1, we know that the opposite of -1 is +1. So this problem just changed to 4 plus 1. So we're going to the positive direction 4, and then in the positive direction 1 more, and we end up at 5. All right? So if you have two negatives next to each other, they're going to end up being a positive, just like this from lesson 1. The opposite of -1 equals +1. Okay, let's move on. These equations are equivalent. So let's look at why these are equivalent. And I'm going to start with actually let's go in order. Let's start with question 1. So we have a move in the positive direction 3, followed by a move in the negative direction 2. If we start at 0, positive direction 3. Now let's go back in the negative direction 2. 1, 2. And we end at 1. So 3 plus -2 is 1. Now, if we have 3 minus 2, these two equations are the exact same, because if I rewrite this with a followed by sign, let's see what would happen. I would have a +3 followed by, this whole thing is a -2. And if you look, they are equivalent. 3, 3, plus, plus, -2, -2, and I would get the exact same thing, which is +1. Let's try this. Same thing here. I have 1 plus 2. We obviously know that is 3, right? We start at 0 over 1, and then we're going to go to the right 2 more, and we end up at 3. Now we have 1 minus negative 2. Let's rewrite this. Let's always rewrite it. So we have a positive 1 followed by, now let's look what we have here, the opposite of negative 2, which gives us positive 2, and we have the exact same equation. 1 plus 2 is 3. I'm not even going to graph that one. We know that. Okay, let's try a couple of these. So we're going to combine integers here. Notice we have like signs. Actually, let's rewrite it first. So we have a negative 4 followed by a negative 3. As you can see, the signs are the same. We want to start to take note of that. We're going in the same direction. So we're going to start at 0, go in the negative direction 4, and then in the negative direction 3 more. 1, 2, 3, and we end up at negative 7. Okay, let's try the next one. Same, it looks like the same problem, but we have an extra minus sign here, or our opposite sign. So let's rewrite it. Negative 4. Sorry, there was an announcement there. So we have our negative 4 followed by the opposite of negative 3, which is positive 3. So now we have different signs. This will come in our next lesson, but just so we can start to think about whether our signs are the same or different. So here they're different, so that means we're going to end up going in 2 different directions, right? Let's go in the negative direction 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to have to turn around and go in the positive direction 3. 1, 2, 3. And we end up at negative 1. All right, let's see. I think we have maybe one more. Oh, let's do this one. Okay, 3 minus 5. So I have a positive 3 followed by, this is a negative 5. So I have move in the positive direction 3. 1, 2, 3. Followed by a move in the negative direction 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we end up at negative 2. Notice that these are different signs, so we're switching directions here. All right, if you need to hear this again, just go back to the beginning.